Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of The Successful CEO. As you know, my name is Zeeshan Mallick. I'm the CEO of YouYaa, and today I'm talking to David. David, how are you, my friend?
I'm grand, Zeeshan. How are you?
I'm really good. You know what? I've got my jumper on today because it's feeling a little bit chilly outside. It's been raining, but it is humid, so no scarf or hat, which is always good.
I've gone for a very bad combination of some sorts of long t-shirt and a waistcoat combination, which makes me both pretentious and not quite as warm as I should be.
That's so, okay. Because you look great
on lap, okay, hot water bubble there. We're all good,
Yeah, as long as you look good on camera, that's all we care about.
That's where we're at.
David, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Now,
as you know, the Successful CEO is followed by entrepreneurs, is followed by people who are interested to find out more information about leadership, about tech, about people and finance and things like that. I'd love to find out more about you. So who are you and what do you do?
So I'm the CEO of MEG, which is Media Entertainment Gaming. It is a tech company which also works into the advertising world. So we deal with some of the cutting edge of advertising, with being video game advertising, emerging media, that type of piece. We're also recently bringing in the opportunity for conference groups and other B2B groups to monetize the data and insights that they're sat on top of via technology. And we also advise different groups as well as to how to work between people, product, and tech. My background is I came from a consulting background way back. I originally actually started my career at American Express, moved into consulting, was in the commercial side of that. So I was looking at costs, I was looking at tech, I was looking a lot at revenue stuff. So I ended up doing a lot in the media area, a bit of procurement, and did that around different parts of the world. So that was all good fun. Managed to play around with brands. I've had a slightly circuitous route to where I've got to here. I also have advised governments and brands around essentially the video gaming area. So there was a big area of opportunity of growth. I set up my own personal consultancy at one time with this, and 5 years ago I thought it'd be amazing to get into position a tech offering, which I've been thinking about for 10 years prior to that, about how do we push the sort of cutting edge of media trading into a technology platform, and having secular problems.
Wow. And how long have you been doing all this now? How long has it been? You have to show your age here a little bit.
So I've been in and around the workplace properly about 15 years or so. Okay. So I started this business 5 years ago. So I thought it'd be a really good idea to start a business and get it going just around the pandemic, which was just prior to the pandemic, which was...
That must have been a tough time to get things started.
Yes and no. So we won government grants for innovation, which helped. So there was lots of opportunity in that regard. Video gaming was doing very well. We didn't focus exclusively on that, but that's where we started to go towards, because that was where the money was. And yes, it was very difficult in some regards, okay, but on the other hand, there were areas of opportunity that came with that. But there was a moment when I thought to myself, have we really made the right decision here, packing in the day job and going off and doing this, okay? But it's been a bit of a roller coaster for the last 5 years, but it's been good fun.
Yeah. Starting during the pandemic, and then we've had economical crisis, we've got wars happening all over the place, there's inflation issues, interest rates going out of control, immigration issues all over the world, you've got Trump doing his thing, and whatever else is happening everywhere else. You've seen quite a lot, I imagine, just within these 5 years. Out of all of that, if you could pick the one biggest challenge you've had, what would it be?
I think it's probably going to be dealing with uncertainty, okay?
Nice.
Trying to keep people, trying to keep clients, investors, staff, and suppliers positive. Because the big thing with a lot of, and to understand that, there is opportunity. With uncertainty does come opportunity. And trying to sort of eke that out and try not to get your energy sucked out by people who are feeling a bit like this. And they're just saying but isn't it awful? It's like, yes, it is tough and it is rough out there. Don't get me wrong, okay? Like, it's very tough for a lot of people. But fundamentally, there's been a lot of war in history. There's been a lot of economic up and downs. Having everything happening at once is interesting, but it does mean that it does mean that for those who can stay positive, stay robust, but also not put themselves in a position where they are very vulnerable.
Right.
Putting yourself in large amounts of debt, for instance, is not necessarily the way to do it in these circumstances. Being nimble, there's lots of ways of being able to turn this to your advantage. So it's trying to keep people positive and also dealing with that uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, uncertainty within business in this day and age is a silent killer, isn't it? Because it's like financial markets. If you know where it's going, if you know what's happening, if the economy is stable, people invest in it. So it kind of makes sense. Businesses follow that same ethos very, very tightly. And so uncertainty is sort of unplanned, isn't it? It's like it just happens. Something happens over there, and you have to learn to adapt and whatnot. So that's great, and you've obviously done that very well, because in the last 5 years, it's been nothing but ups and downs. So, what was the biggest risk you knowingly took?
Well, I think starting a tech venture in the first place was probably foolhardy, I'd reckon. But the attitude of build it and they will come, which is a naive thing that we're all told not to do, which I certainly did, was probably not the way. It was a bit of a sort of, I didn't quite bet the house on it, but it was that sort of moment of going this is what we're going to do, here's the vision, off we go. And to a degree with tech, you do need to actually have some product or something to show. But I think the sort of naive and innocently arrogant attitude that I knew what the market wanted, or the collection of what the market wanted, was a big risk. And only really by listening to my head of tech and a few others, well, maybe actually we should be asking the market a bit more what they want, and we should get them testing it rather than trying to build more and more and more on top of it. That was a big risk, which we mitigated eventually. But I think that the learning process with this was very much along the lines of just being like, look, if you're going to go down this route, get to market as quickly as possible and test it. Because if it falls on its backside, at least you haven't spent so much money on it, and you'll probably get a lot of very good feedback on the back.
Yeah. So is that the learning you took out of it?
Absolutely. It's get something in the market, get it out there, as quickly as possible. There's a lot of people who advise me to say, but we can't put this sort of thing in front of somebody because it's not perfect and it's not this, and I get that. And so there's reputation on it, and they'll never use you again. It's like, well, they may never use this in the first place, and quite a lot of these people typically want to play around with stuff and criticize it, especially if they feel ownership towards what happens next. That actually delights them typically. So that was a learning that took me a long time to have the courage to not put something out in the wild and not say, well, just tweak it a little bit more, I
mean, that's interesting, because I hear all the time from people that I speak to about, first mover advantage, get into the market first, create the market, all these things, which is all well and good when you've got a huge pile of cash sitting there and you go into a market just like that, great. But for the rest of us, we're not sitting on huge piles of cash. We're sitting there with an idea, a concept, something that we can possibly do. And it's like you say, it can't be perfect, because humans, by our very nature, we're imperfect. So that means that the products that we have and use, and society within itself, is imperfect. So I really resonate with what you're saying, that move quickly, learn quickly, get mistakes, feedback, make things better, and then move forward from that perspective. I really like that a lot. That's really cool.
Oh, thank you. This isn't something which I came up with one by myself, or got it right first time. I did actually all the wrong things first. When it came to the view of them, by process of elimination, this is the right way of doing it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're learning on the job, aren't you? And I think I asked you earlier on, what did you learn from this and this? I think you just sort of hit it on the head there. Is that even with someone with so much experience as you have, and the experience you've had just within the last 5 years, we're all still learning. We're all still going to figure something else out new tomorrow. I like it. So let's talk a little bit about your business now. Now, how big is your organization?
So we're a small organization. Okay, we've had we have expanded and contracted over time. We had overseas operations dealing with APAC, so groups in the Philippines. We deal with West from here, and we deal with the US from here. I think also dealing with groups in Middle East and India, we sort of switch it up a little bit. But it's a small operation. We're heavily dependent upon tech to augment some of that people piece as well. So that's important, and we've done a lot of work around partners. So it's a boutique operation which does have global reach because of the amount of work that's been put into the partnerships, the tech, etc.
I mean, that sounds like there's a lot happening, and when you're spread throughout the globe, it's very hard to manage people on a day-to-day basis and encourage that sort of collective feeling. So how do you encourage, for your team and for your organization to be creative? Like, what is it that you do to encourage creative thinking?
Well, I think that the big thing from a CEO's perspective and so forth is just to speak last, and that's not something which is I'm very good at. Frankly, I'm very poor at it, to be honest with you. But I think that yeah, exactly. But it's just this. You need to probably ask people who are involved in a project or what you're trying to do, what they think, and try and start with the most junior member who's the most enthusiastic, and move upwards a little bit, because you end up leading the audience a little bit. So I think the first bit is try and ask questions if you are going to speak, and do speak loud, if at all, because it may resolve itself without you being involved.
That's true.
Yeah, I think the other side of this though is also just it's kind of challenging people in a way which is taking the responsibility or the consequences of coming up with an idea off them, because a lot of people are either nervous or they think within a particular set of boundaries. And having questions such as, okay, if you couldn't do, this is all very good, if you couldn't do it this way, how would you do it? If I made you do it another way, how would you do it? If you had infinite budgets, what would it look like? If you had no restraints, forget everything here. If you had to start again, let's just do it as a thought exercise. How would you do it? And normally people say, well, if I didn't have to deal with this, I don't like this person, and you get through all that. If I didn't have to deal with all these people, this is how it would work. You go, okay. So could we make?
It's not like you're shackling them. So to say, stop thinking like this and just come to me with ideas. Come to me with something different.
No consequences necessarily. Now, that's not necessarily entirely sincere, because if it's good enough, then there are consequences in that we might do it. But typically, at that point, they have ownership. Yeah, well, the thing is, if it works, then it's the case of going, oh well, people feel. They then feel ownership towards, and they feel somewhat rewarded that their idea has gone forward. Okay.
Right.
So it can work like that. I think that. It's something that I'm not great at, but I've been getting better at over time, which is around try and speak last. There is an element of trying to provide a little bit of structure or format for people to work in, because it is quite intimidating just going 1, 2, 3, go, everybody come up with an answer. But on the other hand, I think once you've gone through a brief, or once you've gone through a technical problem, or how is the technology going to incorporate this, or what commercial model actually fits with what we're trying to do in this particular area, asking around that then is probably the best way of going about it. Nice.
I mean, it sounds like you've got that area sort of sorted out, how you speak to people, how you engage with your team, which is amazing. It's one of the hardest things to do in business, from my experience as well, to bring a global remote team together and get them to work things together. Is there something within the tech people product space that sort of ties in within this company as well that you built? Is it something that runs through? Because that's the kind of feel that I'm getting.
Yeah, so being built in the pandemic meant that we grew up remote, okay, and ultimately we had the circumstance where, with our APAC team that we built up, they were working remotely as well, and that was successfully run. But I think that there was a good dose of luck with that. I think that the experiences that we have and what we advise companies, what I've advised previously, but continue to advise companies around this balance between tech, people, and product. A lot of people have put money into people recently.
Right.
Their revenues have gone up, but not necessarily as much as their costs. More people don't always make you more money. Okay, it's the sort of answer to this. But equally, getting rid of everybody and saying the tech will do it, that doesn't work either. And
it's the AI argument these days, isn't it?
It is. To save everybody sort of AI sort of exhaustion, we're not necessarily going to talk about AI in this, but what I'd say, tech as a whole, tech needs to be balanced off against people, but also product. And this is the one bit that a lot of people don't really talk about, which is that what am I selling, and how do I package this in such a way where I can harness the other two? Because ultimately, you'll always find with a lot of businesses that they're either they're top heavy in one of these areas. Either they have too much tech but no people to help out with, and it doesn't really help. They have a tech looking for a marketplace to work in. You have a product which doesn't have any support around it, okay? Or you have a large number of people who are emulating a lot of tech or emulating lots of product, but fundamentally they're running around trying to find work.
Did you make it almost?
Exactly, there's a bit of that, and it's okay to be in any one of these circumstances at any one moment in time, as long as you're aware of what's going on. But balancing that up, and it's a constant sort of tweaking exercise. We talk to different organizations sort of a bit bigger and say, this is what best looks like in this area. This is what best looks like in this area. Have you considered? Okay, and that's sort of something we look to in an area where tech ultimately, and to a degree, product is changing very rapidly.
Yeah, of course. Okay, I mean, product and tech is moving so quickly in this day and age. Technology is moving so fast that sometimes we scramble to try and keep up with what's happening. But I think it's the people element that's really important, because society takes a little bit of time to catch up. Culture moves slowly to a new adoption. But it's interesting, so we'll get there as time goes by. And it seems like you guys have got a really good grasp on all of this. So I have one final question for you before I let you go. For the 20-year-olds or 20-something-year-olds that are out there in this day and age, who are just coming out of university or first job, second job, and they're thinking, you know what, I'd love to be like David. I'd love to have be a CEO of a company doing this. What would you tell them to do?
Well, don't be like me. There's one piece, but I'd say
fair enough.
It's fundamentally. There's a bit of having to unlearn everything you've been taught at school and university in the way the workplace works, because it is rough out there. It is rough, and people will look after you or scalp you in a completely impersonal sort of way. Okay, so where you need to be is follow the money. You've got to follow the money, okay? And there are a few things that fall off the back of this, but it comes back to focus to a degree. If it isn't making you cash, if something is making cash but isn't potentially making you cash, okay, then you don't want your energy and your resources and your time set up on it. And just a few things to fall off the back of this, which are keep it simple, okay? One is this, there's a lot of people who want stuff for you for free. Okay? They'll lead you and say, oh, just a little bit more, especially in an environment which is uncertain. It means that a lot of people don't have budget, but they will take what they can off you. Okay? This sort of stuff. Yeah. Or they'll want to sell to you something which will definitely work for you. Hold on to your resources. Simplify what it is that you're offering. Keep your own piece simple. Don't attend things or go to things which aren't going to actually, it's going to take away your energy and time. And with that, just when you're setting up your company, if you're looking to do this, hold on to your equity and your resources. Don't just give away equity because somebody wants to join you and it's not clear what value they're bringing, but you quite like.
Yeah.
Don't spend cash on things which are there, which don't clearly get you towards making cash. Because you'll have limited resources unless you have the bankroll of an enormous fund. You have finite resources, so you need to make sure that, and some of those resources are your energy and your time, and that'll be sucked out by whoever.
That's very true. Yeah.
So I think that be suspicious of anyone who'll say, "Oh, I'll just work for equity." Okay, that can work. Okay, but that's usually a case if they value your equity more than more than the time that they're willing to give. And anyone who's very good will typically ask for cash as their first point, because they'll know what they're worth. And anyone who's trying to charge you for stuff. Advice is the big one. I'll charge you for advice. If you're 20, there's lots of people who are going to do this for free because they want to do it because they want to see you succeed. Because on the one hand, there's some good people who want to. They'll think about passing that on, giving that legacy piece, and there'll be the selfish thing of well, I've done a good thing for the world type of thing. So you get that sort of thing that's there. But follow the money. Focus. But if it's not making money, move on to something else. Move quickly. If you don't. if you don't make money on it, it's not a market. Like, don't die on that hill. Like, often you'll find that the market you really want to be in is just around the corner, and it may not be as glamorous, but there may be a lot more money in it, and that's where you need to be.
Nice. It's good advice. So guys, David's nuggets. David, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. If people want to get in touch with you, what should they do?
I'm more than happy to receive emails from david.fenlon@megww.com. That is david.fenlon, megww.com. Also, I think that's probably the best way of doing it. You can also find me on LinkedIn as well.
Great. So what I'll do is I'll take your company and all your details and everything, and I'll put it into the description for everyone to follow, if that's okay with you.
That's perfect with me. Thank you very much.
David, have a lovely, lovely day. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care of yourself. Thanks, guys. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.